Hello there. Nobody produces anything and locks it up without consumption. So you need a consumer to buy, purchase, enjoy, or even have whatever you're producing. And that's why the consumer is king. This program is about the consumer. Whatever we're consuming, what are they? How are they consumed? How are they produced? What should we know about any product, any idea that we are consuming? That's the essence of this program. And in this first edition, we're trying to think about the health of every individual in the society. People just drop dead, right? People just consume, people just say, well, I don't know what happened to me. I am not feeling all right. Is there the possibility that the drugs we'll consume have anything to do with our state of health? That is what we're going to find out in today's edition of the program. We're going to meet those who are in charge of drug production, importation, and distribution. And of course, those who make sure that the drugs you get are qualitative, they are healthy, and then they are also certified by the authorities in the country. So let's meet the pharmacists. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Nigeria's national healthcare delivery can't improve without medicines or drugs. Therefore, access to medicines remains a critical factor influencing healthcare delivery. An assessment of the healthcare delivery system in Nigeria shows that a lot of the areas face many challenges.
So for most medication, yes, you need a prescription. Some, they're termed over-the-counter medicines. And so you may be able to get your supplements and some basic medication. But for most medicines, you need a prescription. What we created is a system that helps us to upload your prescription. Now, coming to the matter of counterfeiting, we really don't have all drugs counterfeited, no. Yes. In Nigeria, and from studies, it appears we have about 17% of counterfeiting. Okay. Not all. The process of counterfeiting is not as simple as that. It's just that it has created fear. Yes. It has created uncertainty. And we have taken it upon ourselves to create trust. That people can know, be rest assured what you get from us has been checked. We took our processes through rigor last year. We actually said, you know what? ISO certification is a globally recognized one. Let us go for that. Right. Let them come to audit what we have been doing for years. And they came, audited us, and we were found thorough in our process. So we're ISO certified. Oh, really? We're the only online pharmacy that is ISO certified.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Then we also said beyond our online pharmacy, we've got a marketing sales arm that focuses on locally produced medication. We're also ISO certified for that. And we have our own franchise pharmacies, our own pharmacies. We also ISO. So we earned tripled ISO certification. And for us, it's so important because we're dealing with lives. We're dealing with people's fears about their medication. And we focus hard, strongly, intentionally on making sure that you know what you're getting when you deal with Advantage Health Africa.
The health sector is very broad. But when you talk about the substance of the health sector, what you want to think of is medicines. So who are those people who make the medicines? Pharmacists. Who are those people who give assurance on the quality of the medicines? Pharmacists. Who are those people who detail the medicines? Who tell other healthcare providers what the medicine is used for, how the medicine should be handled, how the medicine should be used, what you do expect when you give medicine to patients? Who are those people who do that? They are pharmacists. And then who are those who are involved with the distribution of the medicine? Pharmacists. Who are those who are involved with the importation of the medicine? Pharmacists. Who are those who give education to the community from their community pharmacies? Who are those who treat ailments, some ailments in the community pharmacy? So you can see health sector is broad, pharmacy segment is broad, community pharmacy is that face that interfaces with the community. But we also have what we call drug misuse, whereas the drug, either recommended by healthcare provider or not, is being misused by the patient. And I'll give you a typical example. As a young child growing up, I observed mothers. I must have been a victim as well, with a tray of medicine every day, and they give to children every day. And in that tray of medicine, you have paracetamol. You understand? So that is typical drug misuse, where there is no indication for the drug, and then you subject the patient to taking the drug, or the patient subjected himself to taking the drug every time. So that's a typical example. Every morning after bathing the baby, they give paracetamol. What's the indication? Baby does not have pain, baby does not have fever, or you give paracetamol every day. So that can be misused. And then when you come to the adult scope, you want to look at a drug like ampicillin, cloxacillin, that is frequently being misused, whereas the medication is meant for every 6 hours. But you see people having gone through some kind of processes, they just take 2 capsules and they say they are washing down something. That is killing that product. It is not only a misuse that it will not achieve the unintended action, but it's also killing that product because, interestingly enough, that product is an antibacterial. You understand? And when you subject the microbes to sub dosages, that's too little to kill all the bacteria, then you risk resistance. So that's a form of. And then you see ladies taking andrew liver sauce after going through some process again. The drug does not match what you intend to achieve. That's another level of drug misuse.
Pharmacists are healthcare professionals responsible for drug dispensing in Nigeria. Trained pharmacists are indispensable in the healthcare delivery process.
The very first thing is that when you see professional, nobody will tell you. The behavior, the comportment, the kind of information you get is completely different from a quack. So when you go into a pharmacy, even though you have intention to injure yourself, the pharmacist has the responsibility to protect you. So what do I mean? I'll just give you a typical example. Rifampicin is a very reserved antibiotic for tuberculosis. We do keep it in the pharmacy, but we don't dispense it carelessly. So this lady walked into my pharmacy and asked for rifampicin capsule, which is a reserved antibiotic for tuberculosis, which we don't want to mismanage at all. Because if we mismanage that medication, it means that so many people will die of tuberculosis. So when she said she needed it, I said, no, what do you need it for? So that's why I said, even though you have intention to kill yourself or kill other people using drugs, the pharmacist as a professional has a responsibility to prevent that from happening. So when I didn't dispense to her, she went to another place and bought it. And I probed that further. And she told me she mixes the rifampicin with herbs and gives to patients who have serial gonorrhea. So the responsibility of a professional is to prevent you from harming yourself. So when you come and say you want to mix drug for certain ailments, the professional will ask you, what for? Why do you need it? Okay, you don't need it. A couple walked into my pharmacy, and apparently somebody had prescribed antibiotics, 2 different brands, which they will have paid maybe nearly 5,000 naira for. But when I made the inquiries, they don't even need it for their child. Do you understand? They don't need it at all for their child. So I had to prevent that, in spite of the fact that I'm not earning that resources. It does not matter as far as a professional. So when a consumer needs healthcare, it is important that you go to the professionals, right? How do you recognize a professional community pharmacy? All over the world, medicines are handled by pharmacists, and they are handled to the third party through community pharmacy or hospital pharmacy, right? So in the community where the purchase do take place, you want to go to a community pharmacy. So the first thing is that you need to ensure that the green cross sign with RX inside, with the name of the pharmacy or the pharmacist displayed underneath, is in the premises you are approaching. And then when you step inside the premises, the law mandates that every community pharmacy should have his practicing license on display, the original copy of the practicing license. So when you step into a premises, you want to look around and be guided that, one, the license for operation of that premises is on display, and the original license of the pharmacist who is in charge is also on display. You want to ensure those two basic things. Now, there are several classes of drugs. Oh, do you want to buy a cream for fungal infections? All right. What our association prescribes is that at any point in time, the pharmacist should be on board to give counseling, to treat, and to resolve drug therapy problems, right? So that is the primary thing. So when you feel that you really need to be taken care of properly in form of information, in form of treatment, in some form of resolution of drug therapy problem, you will need now ask, please, who is your pharmacist?
So the business of healthcare is a very important thing. And what we speak to is creating access to resources, access to markets, access to skills for the business operator in healthcare. Now we know that we could do better if our economy was great. But even with what we have in Nigeria, how can we improve our business efficiency? If I answer your question, we're addressing what it takes to then deliver great healthcare with consistency, without charging an arm and a leg, as you said, without also hurting the professional who has stuck out his neck to provide healthcare. The medical doctor who owns a clinic, or a pharmacist who owns, a pharmacy, or the physiotherapist who owns a rehabilitation center. We are saying, these physiotherapists, we're saying that we can do much more with what we have. And so we have done some kind of backward integration, and we're moving, deeper into the value chain and saying, how can we improve what is on ground? When we chose to be a major distributor for locally manufactured products, we help to ease some of the tension of that local manufacturer, because then he can focus on manufacturing while we focus on distribution. We can assure him of uptake, and we can assure him of payment. Those things are key considerations that we must have in healthcare. Health financing can never get to the level it must if we have huge gaps in our supply chain financing. So that's a place that we are playing in right now, that has evolved from first understanding the last mile challenges and now moving back up the value chain.
In Nigeria, drug and substance abuses are quite pronounced. It cuts across all ages. Both legal and illegal drugs are abused by people of all ages.
Universal healthcare is my own mantra. Many people need to understand that healthcare is beyond just the curative part. There's the promotion and the prevention, and then there's the rehabilitation and the palliative care. Now, many people read about symptoms and think they know, or they take medicines and think they can, prescribe to others. It's a no-no. It's an absolute no. What we studied for years in medical school has showed us that each body can react differently to each molecule, each medication. Some people are fast metabolism. They have fast metabolism. Some have slow metabolism. Some can clear the medication in 8 hours. Some will clear it in 24 hours. There are those differences. Now, some have adverse reactions to drugs. Some don't. Some have allergies. Some don't. Some will have a history, a family history that you don't know about. There's so many peculiarities. And some, the disease might present like a fever. And there are so many origins for the fever, and even some unknown origins of the fever. Exactly. So there's so many things. So we say, go and meet a professional. The very ready professional is a medical doctor in the clinic. If you don't have quick access to a medical doctor, nowadays we have telemedicine. In the absence of these two, you can go to meet the pharmacist who is clinically trained to also support you with your first, interface. And they can then refer you to the experts that can take, the history. Self-medication,
it's a no-no anyway.
Peer medication is also a no-no. And, we say, even us, the professionals, we need to be in it together, working together. We know our remit. We must not go beyond our remit. Each one of us must understand how we complement each other rather than compete and tear each other down. So there should be no demarketing. When a pharmacist has identified, okay, this fever is on for more than 3 days, let us move you, take you, or extend you or refer you to someone else.
Where they can do some
and the hospital should recognize what has been done. Not, jettison it, but to recognize this has already been administered. So how do we take it? So that history is something that was missing, but some are already addressing that with technology now.
Well, for any drug outlet in Nigeria must be registered by the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. If it is not registered, then it is not a place where consumers should take their health-seeking behaviors to. Do you understand? So once it's registered by the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, even if it's a PPMVL, even if it's a patent medicine shop, they have a permit, and the permit must be on display. The permit covers certain drugs that over the years have not been known to be harmful. And those drugs are classified. And the patent medicine dealers, they know what those drugs are. It does not cover the use, the storage or dispensing of tetracycline, ampicillin, or any antibiotic for that matter, aside amoxicillin antibiotics, which of recent was scheduled and devolved to them for very important reasons of childhood pneumonia. You understand? Aside from amoxicillin dispersible tablet, they are not expected to score any other antibiotics. I use the very, very important opportunity to call on consumers that it is important that anywhere you are getting your medicine is registered by the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. And I've stated it before, there is a permit for patent medicine shop and there's a license for the pharmacies. If you don't see it, don't go there. Because it means that one, professionalism is lacking. Two, it might be that the shop operator has not been trained, and the shop operator certainly is not undergoing continuous education, unlike the professionals.
We cannot overemphasize the roles of pharmacists, drugs, pharmacies, and drug dispensation in the healthcare delivery system.
I experienced it last year in one of my auntie's shops. She's a nurse, so she usually procured most of her drugs from Ibadan. And when we are unboxing those drugs, she found out that many of them, they have expired. So she just called my attention to it that Adekunle, look at some of these drugs that I bought. Most of them are expired. If I sell it to customers now, only God knows what will happen to them. So she had to call our wholesale person in Ibadan to report it, and they asked her to package them and send it back to her in Ibadan.
So I've actually had an experience of that. There is a particular drug for kids, for teething. So we were using it for a baby one time. As soon as we started using the drug, it was the same thing, and the baby kept crying and crying. So it was now later we realized that we actually got the counterfeit of that particular drug. So later the brand now came out to say to apologize, blah blah blah. Counterfeiting drugs again is something that is very, very important, that people should try as much as possible to be careful about. They try as much as possible not to buy it.
I have had experience about some drugs. I think some time ago I bought a drug for headache. So I took two because that's a dose. Before I knew it, I couldn't get it right. I have to take overdose to get what I want. So sometimes they say overdose does not work in Nigeria. But due to Nigerian pharmaceutical companies cannot give us what we want. So we try to take it to overdose so they can give us what we want. Then doing it, we are ruining our system. Because most times people die on taking fake drugs. So I think Nigeria has something to do about that.
In other countries, all these drugs were like, they have a way of giving it out. You can't just walk in and buy drugs by yourself, but here in Nigeria, I don't think there is a strong body that govern all those things. I believe there should be a new law that's gonna like put more restriction in all this, and also consumption of drugs on the street and at home where the kids are is a very bad thing. As for me, I can't keep my kids in an environment whereby people are smoking, drinking. All these things are the things they should curb for parents and for people that smoke or drink, or for anybody that goes with marijuana and everything.
You know, all this while we've been talking about the premises, the licensing, the personnel, but now coming to the substance itself, is a huge. WHO says 1 out of every 10 medicinal products in low and middle income countries are substandard. NAFDAC will tell you between 10 and 15% of drugs we have in the Nigerian market are substandard. I don't even want to go into the story as how we got there. But let's talk to the consumers now. It is your right, number 1 right, to know what you are going to take. Number 2 right, it is your right to examine the products, even if it comes in a multiple pack. It is your right, paracetamol comes in sachet, maybe 8 in a pack. You could check the expiration date. To even further buttress it, most of the time, the expiration date is even imprinted on the sachets. So it is your right to know those basic things. It is your right, it is your own duty to look for the NAFDAC registration number and ensure that what you are taking is NAFDAC registered. It is your right to also look out for the appropriate place to buy your medication. Because even if the product is registered by NAFDAC, if it is not well stored, you are just taking poison. You are just taking, if it has not been well sourced, you are taking poisons. We have drug markets all over Nigeria. And those are the things that make the market for substances and falsified products in our country to be large.
Yes, that's the size of our program today, The Consumer Show. If you did enjoy it and you have something to say or something to suggest, why don't you send it to the address on your screens now? However, I'll be back again, same time, same station, same channel for The Consumer Show. And then don't forget that the consumer is king everywhere. Bye for now.